Recording has started.
Go.
Recording go eh. Okay, let's start. We want to look at HOF tonight. Higher order functions. So let's discuss what HOFs are. Higher order functions are functions that take another function as arguments. Higher order functions are functions that take another function as arguments. What does that mean? Let's say we have a first function and if I want to call on this function, I can pass a value here like this, and let's say this is an argument. So I'm passing a parameter to this argument. I can say return, or I can do anything I want here, return a times 2. So this line, if I console log line, if I say let b equals to this, and if I console log b, what will be the value of b?
That will be 6.
6, good. So that's the way a normal function works. This parameter, or whatever value you have here, will be sent as the value of a. Then you can do whatever you want inside the function with that a, with that value that you are sending in. But HOFs are a bit different. Instead of taking in a number as we have here, instead of a, now we assume that, or we are expecting that the value of a will be a number, right?
Yes.
But instead of doing that, in HOF, these arguments, instead of it being a number or a string or something, it's going to be another function. So instead of sending this 3 as a will actually be another function. What does that mean? So let's get another function. Let's say const second func. So instead of now passing a, I will now pass second func. Do you understand? Are we getting it?
Yes. Yeah.
So instead of passing just a string or this, in HOF you pass a function now as the argument. So the value of a now will be a function. Will be to be this second func. Do you get it?
Repeat it, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. I come again. In the functions we've looked at before now, when you call on it, you pass maybe a string here. Then you can say a plus abidako, something like this. So this tire will be sent as the value of a abina.
Yes.
Then this will represent tire abidako. But in HOF, instead of you passing a string here, it is going to be expecting a function, not a string, not a number. Instead, it expects that you should put a function here. So we are going to put second func, because this second func is a function. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're going to put second. You are not going to trigger it. No, you are not going to trigger it, because when you trigger it, it's going to do whatever is inside second func immediately. You are not going to trigger it. What you're going to do is you are just passing whatever is inside this place to this place. So the value of a now is now second func. Do you understand?
Yes.
So I can now come to this place. Let's say, imagine this scenario. Let's say I have console log hello world. So I can now call on a like this. So it's going to do, immediately I do this, this will pass second func as the value of a, then this will now trigger a, and meaning it's going to do the quotes here. Do we get it?
Yeah.
Sister Moji, do you get it?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
That's line 19.
Okay.
We are not putting the function this bracket
The function
because
call.
we are not like inside
Yes.
that second form.
Yes.
The
Yes.
trigger.
Because we are not we are not going to trigger it inside that place. That is why we are not putting it there.
Yes. If it, let's assume
It's an argument.
Yes.
That's right.
If you trigger it like this, if you run it like this, what it's going to do is this. The value of it will not be this function though. If you do it like this, the value of it will not be this function. The value of it will be whatever this function returns. That's the problem. If it is like this, the value of it will be whatever, when you call on a function, it's going to return something, Abby.
Yes.
So the value of a will be whatever, and I told us something that when your function does not return anything, it will automatically return undefined. Happy?
Yes.
So
Yes.
when you trigger it like this, at this particular point, it will do whatever is inside this place and quickly console log hello, then return something back. So what it will return here will be undefined. So this undefined will now be sent as the value of a. Then you are not trying to trigger undefined. Do you understand it?
Okay.
But that's not what we want. What we want is this, the value of second func is this space like this. We are saying that let all of this be equals to second func. Have you now?
Yes.
This is still the same as saying just copy all of this like this and paste it here.
Yes.
So we are now sending all of this as the value of a. Do you get it?
Yes.
So you can now trigger it here like this. So it's going to run the codes there. Any questions so far? Any questions so far?
No question.
Okay, let's move on.
No question.
So don't forget, you put the value, you don't trigger it, you put the value, then this function can now do whatever it wants with it.
Okay.
So in this case now, this my func that is taking a whole function as its own argument is hof. This my func is hof. It is higher order function. This second func that you are sending as argument is known as a callback. This is a callback. So what happens is, if the function that takes another function as argument is hof, the function that you are sending as argument to another function is a callback. Do you get it?
Yes.
So this my func is hof. This second func is callback.
Callback. A quick question.
Okay, sir.
I want to confirm now. Can we write a function inside the block of code of another function?
Yes, JavaScript allows that.
Okay.
In fact, when we get to our next stage, we are going to be doing that in a lot.
Okay.
Let's move on. So, it's a common practice for some people to let me just comment this out and place this here directly. They will just put the callback here that it will still work fine. Instead of first creating a second func, then passing second func here. Do you understand? So you can just copy all of this and paste it here directly. It will still work fine. Still work fine. So let's move on. You can also, this is ES6 function. You can also write it as ES5 function if you want to.
I want to ask a question, sir.
Okay.
It's a Daru.
So that you get it.
No, because if you took it Daru, the other way that we call it.
Okay, I'm coming. Let me quickly answer this question.
Okay.
Now,
the simpler way the hand that we call.
yeah.
People able to fast you.
Okay. These parts. This is the value of second func. Abina. But I highlight it. So meaning that whenever we have second func, we can put this there. Happy?
Yes.
So let's just copy this and remove second func from this place. then we can now paste that one there. Sure, you understand?
Yes.
It's still the same thing.
So you don't need to write your second function.
I need the lemon.
Okay.
Sister Maji, you can ask your question.
Okay. You were talking about callback function and
HOF.
what is
HOF.
HOF, yes. Now I want to ask that what really distinguish between HOF and callback function?
Okay, I come again.
You mentioned that HOF ni function tí ó ń take another function as argument.
Yes.
And the function tí wọ́n take as argument in callback.
Simple as that.
Function tí wọ́n take as argument in callback.
Function.
In this case, my func ni HOF or the function to gba another function as argument.
Yes.
Second function tá à ń send this into my funky or the callback.
Okay.
Do you get it now?
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, in JavaScript, there are some inbuilt HOFs. Well, you may not necessarily be creating your own HOFs. It's not that I create HOF. Common. But there are some inbuilt HOFs. The one in JavaScript already. And that's why we are able to set in these HOFs. So let's look at these inbuilt HOFs together. The first we are going to look at is map. So these HOFs that we're about to look, they work on arrays. We use them on arrays. So let's create an array. Okay, let's even use for each first. Take a look for each. I think I've seen for each in one of our projects, Stashi. So you quickly understand that one better. So you use these HOFs with arrays. These inbuilt HOFs that we're about to look at, use them with arrays. The first is for each. So you can say this array dot for each. Okay, dot for each. Array. You are running for each on this ARR array. Hope you understand. Someone wants to join. Wow. Oh, is that Pastor Where? Yeah. Wow. Pastor Where? Yeah. Ekalesa.
Emma Kale.
Ekujo mẹ́jọ.
Ọjọ́. In fact, that's 8. Just 64. Mo ní voice note post. Àmúrò bí a class ti tán ni mo kàn ní kí n try èwo ni o.
No. You can send the voice note here before class. So bá ṣe wá bẹ̀rẹ̀ class. Mo wá bí mo ṣe class náà ni mo ti ń record there. So that I'm about if there's any question, I'm gonna fill the question instantly. So in the class, I'm going to record it. We'll send it.
It is well, though. I'm far behind, though. As I'm at the keyboard. Okay. Hello, my brother and sister.
Yes, sir.
Ẹkú ọjọ́ mẹ́ta ẹkú tó ti mú o.
Àbí o.
Ọlọ́run kò ṣe. Well done, my brother. Well done, o. Yes, brother Jacob.
Yes, sir. Ẹ kálẹ́, sir.
Ẹ kálẹ́ o.
Yes, sir.
Ẹkú tó ti mú o.
Àwọn nìyẹn o. Àwọn mọ̀ pé gbogbo àwọn kíláàsì yẹn lọ́tún wò ní so project yẹn by the first person to submit. Ṣùgbọ́n ilẹ̀ máa ń kọ́kọ́ submit.
O ní agbára.
ẹ má wọlé ṣàkárá ní banking app ẹ kò ń ṣe nǹkan tó lè actually.
Ok o wà lè sọ bẹ́ẹ̀. Ẹ pẹ̀lẹ́ sà. Akọ̀m ẹ pẹ̀lẹ́ sà.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Welcome, sir.
Yes. Sister Moji.
Yes, sir. Welcome, sir.
Wọ́n lẹ́yìn lẹ́ ń tọ̀pù kíláàsì báyìí.
It is well.
Àwọn ọmọwé class wa ni.
Thank you.
Wọ́n lẹ́yìn ní gúrú kíláàsì báyìí.
Ọ̀gá Táyé ni.
After wọ́n lẹ́yìn ní 2IC. Ẹ̀yin ní 2IC kí ló military term. Ẹ̀yin ní 2IC. Second in command.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's our final level project for this stage. Final project stage A on the banking app.
Okay.
So I come and improve it. About to share the way about what then to improve it there. So I'm add more there. This is at the time. I'm improve it there. Do that for my party. Pastor, where just I share recap because that is share. Go to the page join lale.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. You're welcome, sir. So, lale we discuss something we call HOF, higher order functions.
Okay.
And we explained that higher order functions, they are functions that take in another function as arguments. So, I'll do example by normally you can function in our use matele. Ṣé wo video lórí àwọn year 6 functions sí mo possible.
Yes, what you will.
Okay, good. So this is year 6 function. Now, perfect with function, right? I'll pass number CB. Number that pass CB, was sent as the value of this var. So you function like I use more tele.
Yeah.
But with HOF, instead of my passing number CB, that my pass is string CB, and my pass or the function CB with 7y. Instead of being a number, my J a O function. So I will show example by.
Yeah.
I want to need second func. Instead of putting 7 here, I'm going to second func CBB by. So second func, was sent as the value of var. Shall I understand?
Yeah.
Ni trigger ni sheba yo. Tabati the trigger.
Okay.
Tabati trigger by nǹkan tó máa ṣẹlẹ̀ ni pé a lọ pe second func instantly. Which is not what we want.
Okay.
Àti fẹ́ jẹ́ kó pé ó máa lọ pe second func so àti bíbá yìí láti sáré lọ console log I. Tó bá dẹ̀ ti console log I, anything tí function bá ti wá return ló máa wá fi sí position yìí. So since tó yẹ pé function yóò return anything, a wá fi undefined síbí.
Okay.
Undefined la wá send as the value of var, which is not what we want.
Okay.
What we want is this. Key after the second func CB. So that second func was sent as the value of var as var.
Yeah.
So we can now call on var inside this function. Tabati wa pe var ó máa wá lọ ṣe nǹkan tó wà nínú second func because second func náà òun la send as var. So tabati trigger var a wá lọ ṣe nǹkan tó wà nínú second func. Shall I understand that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Now, function ilé tó ń gba ọmọ yìí, function ti my func is the HOF.
Yeah.
It is the function that is taking another function as argument. It is the HOF. A function that takes another function as argument is HOF.
Yeah.
Now, the function that we are sending as argument to another function, the function that we are sending as argument to another function, in this case, this second func is known as callback. So this second func is a callback. Why this my func is a higher order function, is a HOF. Shall I understand this?
Yes.
Now, a common way to write this callback is to just copy this like this. You may see this online. Okay, but about the second func, this is the value of second func. We are saying second func equals to all of these things, Abby.
Yeah.
So it means that wherever we have second func, we can put that thing there. So I'll by. So that I need second func. So
okay.
You may see things like this online. It's still the same thing.
Okay.
So this syntax basic was sent as value of the function about this is also known as a callback. Function is a callback. So however, some of the HOFs standing in Java, we have some inbuilt HOFs in JavaScript. I said something that on our own really needs to create HOF while working on projects. But there are some inbuilt HOFs in JavaScript that are meant to make our life easier, our work simpler. So instead of doing, year 6, I said part of the essence of year 6 is to reduce the codes you write. You are going to be writing less, yet you'll be doing more. So there are some inbuilt HOFs that came with ES6. The first one I want to look at isn't part of ES6 anyway, but others that we're going to be considering, aside the first one, they are part of ES6. The first one is not part of ES6, ES5 lower. But others that we're going to be considering after the first one is they are part of ES6, or they were introduced. They were introduced with ES6. These HOFs that we're about to look at, we use them with arrays. So we did something like this. Let ARR, what am I writing? Let ARR equals to, create an array, Peter, James, and John. So we can now use our for each. That's the first one we want to look at, for each. Now look at something. This for each. Shall we go back in Illinois? I don't know if you notice it.
Mm-hmm.
This is a callback. But to make it easy, you can take it outside. Instead of putting it here, you can create a function outside. It's a const. Maybe my func done, or my function only she just second func. Let me even call the second func so that I get animal confuse them. Okay. So I'm gonna have CBV by second func. So what happens is this: the way for each works is that it will take each value here. These are, already array Latin pay for each now. You are calling on for each. So it's going to pick the first value inside this array. That's what for each is going to do. It will pick the first value inside this array and throw it to second func. Oh my juicy no. So second func will receive it and do whatever it wants with it. So but at next value. At to source second func. Second func will do whatever it wants with it. To pass it at to parallel. The third value. At to source second func. Second func at to shape to bawu. But shan't get to
yeah.
This for each is an inbuilt function in JavaScript. Code to finish JavaScript local code actually internally. For loop will run internally. That's the way for each. It actually runs for loop internally. So it's going to pick each value in this array and throw it to this one, to this second func or whatever function you have it. This function can now do whatever it wants with it. When it's done, it picks the next value again, throws it here. This is going to do whatever it wants with it. Picks the third one, throw it here. This is going to do whatever it wants with it. So let's now make use of the values. Okay, to start with, let's say console.hello, so that you understand what it's saying. So it picked the first value, throw it to this second func. Unfortunately, this second func is not receiving it. Anyway, it's not. We are going to look at how to make it receive it. But for now, note that we pick the first value, throw it to this place. This will now do whatever it wants with it. Unfortunately, second func is not doing anything with it. Instead, second func is consoling log hello. When it's done, it picks the second value, throws it here. This is not doing anything with it. Instead, second func is console log hello, that picks the third value, throws it here. This will not do anything with it, but this will console log hello. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the answer for each is to run a code. It's to run a set of codes based on the number of items in an array. That's the answer for each. Maybe you want to run the particular codes based on the number of items in an array. So let's run it on the browser. So to our console now. Shari hello 3 times. Look at me. Let me zoom it. Shari hello 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You just okay. Okay, 3 times. Yeah, hello 3.
Let me see if I can. Let me ungroup it. I think there's a place to do the settings there. Show was not after each update. Maybe I'll check it maybe after the plan. Welcome on, there is a place of my own group. Yes, group similar. Let's uncheck this now. Hello.
Yeah.
So Tabani 5 items in B. At the party 5 items, you know how they have.
Yes, sir.
So Omar display hello 5 times also. It's going to display hello 5 times. Hello, making 5 times. Let's move on. Now, remember I said somehow you are not making use of this value inside this second func for now. So next thing is you want to see how you can use these values inside the second func. To do that, all you need to do is to put an argument here. So I can put anything. In this case, I will say name. So what happens is this. It's going to pick this first value, Peter. It will throw it to for each. For each, we send it to second func. Second func will receive it as name. Shall I get there? So you can now say maybe hello Peter. So let's use our backtick and say hello name. So what happens is Peter will be sent to for each. For each we throw it to second func. Second func will now receive it as whatever argument you put here. In this case, it's going to receive it as name. So this is now going to log hello Peter to the console. When it is done, it picks the next item, gives it to for each. For each gives it to second func. Second func receives it as name. Then it will say hello James. When it's done, picks John, gives for each. For each gives second func. Second func receives as name. This is going to display hello John. When it's done, picks 1, gives this to for each. For each gives this to second func. Second func receives that name. This say hello 1. Then picks 8, gives for each. For each gives second func. Second func receives that name. Then console log hello 8. Any questions so far?
It is clear. No question.
Okay, let's go to the console and see the results together. So we have these results. Next is this. Sometimes you are not just interested in the values here. You are also interested in the position of those values. You are also interested in the index of those values, not just the values, but also the index of those values. So in that case, you are going to supply 2 arguments here. The first argument will be the value you are sending. The second argument will automatically be the index. I come again. When it is 2, when you supply 2 arguments to your callback, you know this is a callback, have you know?
Yes.
When you supply 2 arguments to your callback, the first one we hold the value, the second one we hold the position of that value. So I can now say position IND. So what happens is this: it's going to pick Peter, gives it for each gives second form. Name will now be Peter. IND will be what? What will be the value of IND?
Yes.
Well, what is IND now? If name is Peter, what will be IND?
The index, the position.
Position, yeah.
Peter in
Hello, Peter 0. Hello, James 1. Hello, John 2.
Good. Get it. So IND will be 0 for Peter. So that is now going to log hello Peter position 0. Then next it will pick James, send it to this for each sends it to this place. Then name will be James, IND will be 1. So it becomes hello James position 1. Then for John it becomes hello John position 2. Then for 1 it becomes hello 1 position 3. For 8 then it becomes hello 8 position 4. Share on your wallet.
Yes.
So on. So that is the for each. That is how for each works. You use for each whenever you want to repeat a set of codes based on all the items in an array. For instance, let's say I want to display this on the screen. Let me use human names also. Let's say Taye, Kenny. So I want to display something like Peter is a student. Peter is our student. James is our student. John is our student. Taye is our student. Kenny is our student. I want to run the same codes for all of them. So we can create a div here. So we're going to display all of this inside this div, ID. We can call it results. So we're going to now say results plus equals to name is our student. So we don't need this. We are not using since we are not displaying the index, you can just use 1 like this. So when you run this, it's going to pick the first value here, send this as name, and it's going to say name is our student. Oh, sorry, is that text? Text. So is that text equals to this. So let's go to the browser and see the results together. So shall I use that logic? Shall I load your screen? Peter is our student.
Peter is student.
Let's break it to the next line. Clearer. Let's break it.
James is our student. John is our student. Taye is our student. Kenny is our student.
So we can say inner HTML. So you can now say okay, we have this. Besides our student, James, student. Oh my god. I think this is clearer. Let's proceed. Sheba, understand the Gaussian loop here.
Yes.
Any question? Can I talk for each catalog? See next one. So want to move to okay. Want to move to another H O F. The next one we want to look at is called map. MAP. This one was introduced with ES6. Remember I said after the first one, the other ones that were going to be consulting, they were introduced with ES6. So map. Sorry, before we leave this part, let me quickly explain a common thing to Manshele. You may see codes like this online. Let me just cut, or let me copy, comment out these parts. So, how come I really was in the video directly? Hope you understand. But I shall not see now.
Yeah.
So you may see something like this online if you still work the same way. Or you might share exactly BT telling you not share. You still have the same results. So I think it's important I point that out. So let's go to map now. Map works like for each. In fact, it's similar to for each in many regards. Except that map returns a value. For each returns undefined. I will explain better. Map is similar to for each in the sense that it's going to do the same thing for every item. You know that is what for each does. For each is going to run the same codes based on the number of items in an array. I've been now. For each, we run a set of codes based on the number of items in an array. Map also does the same thing. It runs a set of codes based on the number of items in an array. So it's actually similar to for each in that regard. The exception is that map returns a value. For each does not return any value. For each does not return a value. It doesn't. So, for you to understand this EU of for each does not return a value, let's say I do something here now. Let's say I have this as return name for the first one, it will return Peter Abidakun Abina.
Yes.
Shall I follow? Show that.
No, not yet.
Okay. So for the first one, I return Peter Abidakun. For the second one, I return James Abidakun. For the third one, I return John Abidakun. On and on like that.
Yeah.
Then for the next one, Taye Abidakun. For the last one, Kenny Abidakun. Now, to bá return name, okay, ló máa return ẹ̀ padà sí àbí. Ibi tẹ́ bá ti pè function ìgbà ló máa dá padà sí. Good. So let's now save the result inside a variable like this, so that we can get whatever is returned inside this A. Then we can now say console log A. You can say console log A. So let's go to the browser and see the results. Go to the terminal. Shall we define Larimbe? Gbogbo nǹkan tá a return nìyẹn kò bá wa kò sí nínú A rárá. Normally you think it should be here, but that's the way for each works. Or you can still shorten this code. I'll shorten and consider. Remember I said if you are using ES6, you are allowed to use this to return. You can return like this, provided you are not using curly braces. I explained in that video. But you can return like this. Shall I say?
Yeah.
You can return like this. It's still fine. But even whether you return like this or you write it in full way, undefined is not let my bunny, but it will still be undefined. When you get to the browser, you still see undefined there. That is the issue of for each. For each does not return any value. For each, good. For each only runs the code for each of the items in that array. Why map, on the other hand, does not just run the codes, but also it returns a value. Shall we understand? Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. So we make use of map most times when you want to have an array. Let's say we have an array like this. And you also want to generate a new array that has the same number of items in the original array, but may be modified. I come again. You make use of map when you have an array like this. But yet, I still want another array. I don't want to touch the original array. When we get to the next stage, you understand this thing better. This array time, this ARR, imagine is something coming from the back end. Because most times you'll be getting your value from the server. Values most times. So imagine you are not the owner of this array. Let's assume it is coming from the database, from the server. It's coming from the backend. So you don't want to alter this array. You want to preserve it. Therefore work on. Try and get there. Are we getting it?
No, we are looking at the first.
You are. There is a noise.
Ariwo kan wá lábẹ́.
Okay, it's from Sister Moji. Okay. Check out continue.
Yeah, I think it's clear now. It's clear now.
Sister Moji, please mute. Please don't unmute your mic. There is a noise coming from your background. Okay, let's move on. Now, for map, most times you use this when you have an array, but you don't want to alter that array. Yet, you want to generate a new array, and in that new array, you want to make use of the values in this original array. For instance, imagine I'm getting this array from the backend, and I need this array, this original array, in different pages of my application. Imagine I need it in different pages. I'm getting it from the backend, and I need it in different pages. So it doesn't make sense that I alter this array. Because if I alter it on a particular page, then the altered value will be the one to be sent to other pages. I don't know if you get it. You have an array. If you alter that array, every other pages using it will be using the altered array. Shall you understand?
Yeah.
So you don't want to touch the original array. Yet on your present page, on the present page that you have presently, you need this original array, but you need the altered one. You want to alter it on this page, but you don't want to touch the original. You still want the original array to stay preserved in case you need it elsewhere. So you want it to be preserved. Yet on this particular page that you have, you want it. Good. Imagine a scenario whereby on your page you are fetching the names of users from the back end. Imagine you are fetching the names of the user. But on this particular page that we have, you only need the first three letters of each name. You only need the first three letters of each name. So if we alter this array, let's assume we now alter this array so that we have the first three letters of each name inside this array now, then it's a problem, because if you need to send it to another page, it's going to only be sending that array with the first three letters alone. Do you get it?
Yeah.
I can make it.
But to save it, it will update the altered array in the database now.
Yes.
Because it's just on that page, Lama send it, no.
Yes, is not going to alter it in the database, but the problem is that you don't want to be making requests to the database often because it's going to take time. So once you fetch data, and you need the data, and you need data elsewhere. Since the data is already at the front end, then it's good you send the one you already have to those pages. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So making requests to the backend, go one database at all times. Might take time. One, it will consume data, your user's data too. So since you already have it here, then you can just send this same array to other pages. But on this particular page that we have, you only need the first three letters of each name. Just the first three letters. Shall I understand?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
we now want to generate a new array. This is where map comes in. We want to generate a new array. And inside that new array, it will now have only the first 3 letters.
Okay.
So because map returns a value, it is the best to solve this problem. For each, we not do it. Or should I say for each we not do it? Map does it better. Map does it better. Map does it better. So let's see how to make use of map to solve this problem. So let's remove this new array. So we can now say, go to second function. You now say return name. But you want to remove the first 3 letters. That would be this substring now. I think substring should do that for us. When you run the substring, the starting point is inclusive, the ending point is non-inclusive. That is 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So you shan't get Shan't get there.
Yeah, I'm following.
If you have Sister Moji, please, are you getting it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, please, can you do something about the noise coming from the background? Let's look at how substring works before we make use of it. Let's go to the browser and quickly run some codes. Imagine I have a variable a equals to capital form. I can now say a dot, it said it has already been declared. Oh, on that page, let's get variable b equals to. Using the saying it has already been, I think we have a variable inside this place. That's the thing. So let's create b. Variable b equals to abidakon. You can now say b dot substring. Okay, so bestial. Now the first one is the starting point, where you want it to start. The first one is inclusive. The second one is the ending point, where you want it to end. Is non-inclusive. If I say 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, only any 4 participle, you can see A is not part of the result. I've been now. Are we getting it? This is index 0, A is index 0, B is index 1, I is index 2, D is index 3, A is index 4. But the second value is non-inclusive, meaning it's not going to include it. The first argument is inclusive. The second one is non-inclusive. So when you have it, you have this abid. Do we get how this works? Okay. Pastor Weye.
Yes, sir. I'm with you, sir.
All right. Mr. Jacob.
I'm with you.
Okay. Let's move on. So we can now say, I think, okay, let's sub str. So we can now say 0, 3. So what happens is this. I will change this from this to map. So it's going to pick the first value here. So it's to map. Map sends it to second func. Second func receives it as name. Name.substring, it will now return, this is doing the work of return here. It will now return name.substring 0, 3. And that will be PET. That is start from index 0 and end at index 3. But the index 3 is non-inclusive. So you only see index 0, index 1, and index 2. So it's going to return PET. Whatever it returns, because why to say for each name, it's going to return the value here. Whatever it returns will now be pushed inside A. Do we understand? Whatever it returns will be pushed inside A. For each on the other hand, even if you return any value, it's not going to get to this place. But in the case of map, when you return a value like this, and the value comes back A, it will be pushed inside A. So it goes to the next one again. Pick James. James sends it to Map. Map sends it to second func. Second func receives it as name. Then James dot substring 0,3. That's jam. Then it will return it back to this place and it will push it inside A, meaning we now have two items inside A. Then it's going to do the same thing for John, then the same thing for Taye, the same thing for Kenny. So when you now check how A looks like or what A looks like, then you can have this result. Let's go to the terminal now. Shall we result there? So we are not touching the original array. In case we need the original array at any point, we can still use it. So OE1 intact, and this one is also, we can also make use of it on this page. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is the difference between map and for each. Just like map, just like for each, the second argument here is the index, just like it. Now you can also write even up to 3 arguments, but intentionally let me introduce the third one because, well, I don't think it has any usefulness. You can have the third argument anyway. I'll call it my array, but I don't think you have. Let me tell you what this third argument is about. This third, once it has 3, the first argument, this name, will be that value. The second will be the index. Now, you see this third will be the whole array itself. This ARR, the major value of my array. Do you get it? The whole array itself, the major value of the third argument. But you won't, I don't think you have any reason to use the third argument. The reason is this: if at all you need to make use of the third argument, you can always call on ARR, this whole array. And once you call on ARR, it's still the value of this my array. So I don't think you have any reason to use the third argument. I'm just trying to tell you that it exists. But I don't think I've ever seen a situation where I used it or any instances online where it is being used aside for class purpose. Maybe just to tell you that it exists. I don't think you have any reason to use it. So the first is the value, the second is the index. Any question on that before we go to the next HOF?
Now I want to. How would I put it now? Instead of using for each now, is it not better to be using the map since it has more advantage than for each?
If you don't,
because from what you have explained now, I don't think there's anything we can do with for each that we cannot. I don't think there's anything we can do with for each that we can't do with map. But there are things we can do with map that we cannot do with for each.
Yes, but what happens is, if we are not interested in returning a value, just like we used for each the other time, the other time we used for each to display a result inside this div, and in that case, we didn't have any reason to return a value.
Any value, yeah.
So if there's no reason, if there is no point, or if we don't have any reason to return a value, then we can just make use of map. Or for each. Sorry, we can just make use of for each. But if we need to generate a new array, so the map comes into play.
Okay.
So let me quickly take water. So
our lecturer, you need Jared, you need it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let's go to the next one. The next is filter. But before we look at filter, let me also point out that you can copy this. You can take this one out of this place. You will see this often online. In fact, when we get to React, just paste it here like this. It's still the same results. Then, especially if we just want argument, if it's just one, since we are not using the index, remember you can remove the bracket a bit. So by just a single argument, and it becomes this. So you can see the same things like this. I'm working into more kini. To ba wuyen de koja de ba fi pe o fe ma wa confusing e koja de. Assim que eu tô fechando, just like that. But you'll be seeing this online. And also, when we start writing the hard codes now, the mark create a function kan kó tó di pé àlàpà máa gbé sínú ẹ̀ directly, but it's still the same thing. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Map. That's how the filter. Remember again, map also runs a for loop internally. It's not that these things are faster than the for loop. They are not actually faster.
Yeah.
They just make our code shorter.
Yeah.
Faster for. In fact, internally no, when you run for loop, nínú. So let's move on to filter. For filter, it's like filter paper in our secondary school. In filter paper, when you make use of filter, what's it called? Filter paper. Ase ogi. When you want to use that sieve to sieve out things, you're going to pour the pap, the ogi, on the sieve. The filtrate will go to it, which is the water. Then the residue will stay on it, which is the shaft. Abina.
Yes.
So we know the sieve needs to be designed in such a way that it will allow some items to pass through, but it will be able to stop some items from going so too. So what we want to do now is we want to create a filter that will allow some items to pass through it, but not all items. It will be able to also stop some items from moving to it. So let's say you want to do something. Let's say we want to do something like this. If we have Peter. Peter has how many characters? 5. James has 5. John has 4. Taye has 4. Kenny has 5. Good.
4. Right.
So we only want it to display the arrays. These are original arrays. We only want to display the names that has 4 characters. Good. We only want it to display the names that have 4 characters. In this case, only John and Taye have 4 characters. That is where filter comes in. You want to run some conditions. And if any of these items, the items in this array, if any of them meets that condition, then you want to return it. If any of them does not meet it, you are discarding it. Shall we get it now?
Yeah.
Okay. So instead of map, there's an inbuilt one called filter. So again, just like map and for each, the first item represents the value. The second item represents the index. But since we are not making use of the index for now, we are only making use of the value, then we can now say return if name dot length is equal to 4. Did we get it? It's going to return anything that meets this condition. So it picks the first value. Gives filter. Filter sends it as name. Then we check this condition. If it meets it, it will return it. If it doesn't meet it, it will throw it away. Then picks the next one. Gives filter. Filter checks it with this condition. If it meets it, it returns. If it doesn't, it will throw it away. Then this. If you pick John, gives filter sends it as name, then it's going to check this condition. So this means this now is going to now push it inside A. So at the end of the day, it will only push John and Taye inside A. Shall I understand that?
Yeah.
So if you are using ES5 to write this, if you are not using this map and filter, I'm a for loop. About the work of for loop, you now be checking, you now write if statement inside that for loop. That will take time, but this one is straightforward, easy to use. But since you understand how for loop works, then this will be easier to now understand. So let's go to the console. Shall John at the tile
yeah.
So yeah, you can also do much more than that. you can say if this dot length, let's say if it's greater than, so if it is lesser than or equal to 4, meaning that tabarile to less than, no, push
4.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Let's say, I don't know.
Ojo.
Ojo. Thank you, sir. Ojo. So my push John Taye Ojo. I want to meet condition. Then what will any how or whatever you want to check. You can also say, let's make use of the index now. The second argument is the the second argument is the index. So I can say or high is maybe lesser than, let's say 1. You can have these two. So a little bit limits either of this one or this one. You know John Taye Ojo means the first one, Abi?
Yes.
But Peter means the second one. The index of Peter is 0 and 0 is lesser than 1. James will not be able to meet it because he doesn't meet this condition. Then Kenny will not be able to
doesn't meet any condition.
So we're going to say Peter, John, Taye, Ojo. If it's and, do I pay hand in the and you push anyone because none of them meet the condition. This John, Taye, and Ojo, they meet the first one, but they don't meet the second.
They don't meet the second one, yeah.
Then Peter meets the second, but it doesn't meet the first one.
That one, yeah.
So it will be an empty array. So let's change this Peter to pet so that it will not be the only one to meet the conditions. So we have pets. So I understand the filter change. Then you can also do what we call function chaining. Function chaining. Let me discuss what this. Let me change it back to this so that Peter, John, Taye, and Ojo, all of them will meet this condition. Peter, John, Taye, Ojo. Good. I have a chain. What does that mean? Share results. You know this one is going to give us Peter, John, Taye, Ojo, Abi.
Yes.
That result, see, we can now run map on it again. Shall we understand? This is going to give us an array. Array meaning Peter, John, Taye, Ojo. That array to my return tell him instead of passing it as you can now run map on it again. And now say map. You can put any value here. You can say var return. Maybe you can say return var Apidako. Check what is what.
Hello.
No, sir.
So that's the left which is Peter, John, Taye, Ojo. On the realize one map lori. How to take each of the value there. It will first pick Peter and return Peter Abidakun. Then our will pick John. It's not going to pick James because James wasn't part of the results returned by this first one. Do you get it?
Okay.
So it will now pick John instead because John was part of the result returned by this one. So it will pick that one and send it as var again. Then that returns what's it called? John Abidakun. Then picks Taye. Then returns Taye Abidakun. Then picks Ojo. It's not going to pick Kenny because this first one will not return Kenny. So it's going to pick Ojo and returns Ojo Abidakun. But when you push A, that will now console log A. Inside A now, you will now see Peter Abidakun, John Abidakun, Taye Abidakun, and Ojo Abidakun. Ideally, mark up what look confusing. No. If it looks confusing, you can write it this way. First write your A, then now say A dot map. That's defined too. So let's check one more before we go. this one we're going to look at what we call find. This also takes up to 3, but like I said the other time, you won't need to use the third argument. The third argument stands for the whole array, and you won't have to. So we also have find. Find works like filter, but with an exception. The difference is that filter returns every item that meets that condition. Find, on the other hand, only returns the first item to meet the condition. I come again. Filter returns every item that meets that condition. In this case, Peter meets it, John meets it, Taye meets it, Ojo meets it. But when you use find will only return the first item, only which is Peter, that meets the condition. Do we get the difference between the two?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. So find will only return the first item. And that means this, when you are using find, this A is not going to be an array because it knows that only one item will meet the condition for find. It knows the first of the battery. So this A will not be an array. Instead, it's going to be whatever value to one. Since this is a string, then A will be a string. So let's run it. On l'a chéri Peter and B. Shall we go for array?
Peter.
Because Peter is the first item for commit condition. But let's look at instances and instances whereby none of them meets the condition. It's possible. Just like this. None of them meets the condition. In this case, A will now be undefined. Oh my God, undefined. Since none of them meets the condition. So our lay, we now make, in fact, while writing code, we now take advantage of this. We can now say if A. If A means that at least tell your compiler meet condition. I don't know if you get it. Because if A is 2, then it means that at least one of them met that condition. A will not be undefined. Remember, undefined is 4C. We looked at 2T and 4C, happy. Sharonti?
Yeah.
2T, 4C.
Yes.
Yeah.
Undefined is 4C. So, nǹkan tó bá wà nù else la lọ ṣe tó bá yẹ undefined ni tó bá yẹ undefined ni A. Nǹkan tó bá wà nù else ló máa wá ṣe. But once A is 2, once it's able to do this, then you can now say console log. At least I found a name fund. Name fund. But if you try the same code with filter, oh my, that was level. Because even if none of them meets the condition, A will be an empty array. Do you get it? If none of them meets the condition, A will be an empty array. And empty array is 2T. It is 2T. So it is still console log name fund. Or you might console log. You know, I told us that our control are 4C. They are 0, false, undefined, null, NaN, that is not a number, and empty string. Empty array was in no. So even if you use filter, even if none of them is this condition, it will still run this. So what you can do in that case is that you can now run code like this. You can now say if A dot length, if it's greater than 0, do we get it? Because if there's nothing there, A will be an empty array and it's not going to meet this condition. So let's see here also. Show you what about in that.
What do you want?
To some extent.
Okay, let's come again. If for find, if none of the item, if none of them meets this condition, A will be undefined. So you can come here and say if A. Sorry. So you can come here and say if A. Let's assume James meet the condition. I'm just assuming now. Let's assume James meet the condition. A will be James Abi now for find. A will be James Abi.
Yeah.
Now, if James, that is 2T, because James is tutti. You know, I told us that strings are tutti except empty strings. Strings are tutti. So it's just like saying if James. And you know, if James means that Omash and Koto and B. Are we getting it?
Yeah.
But let's assume none of them meet the condition. A will be undefined, Abby. So if you now say if undefined, if undefined is 4C, undefined is part of those things that are treated as false. 0, false, undefined. I'm going to Java to mount it as false, null, empty string, and NaN, not a number. So I want to comment these 6 things. The JavaScript man treat as false. Sorry. So, and undefined is one of them. So in that case, it's going to run the codes in the else. Abino, shall not say?
Yeah.
So telling about meet condition, yeah, good. Telling about meet condition, A will be undefined. So if you now say if A, it's like saying if undefined, then that means we go to the else part. So we can use this code to know whether at least one of them meets this condition or not. But we are not trying to do the same thing with filter. In filter, let's assume Peter and James meet the condition. So the value of A will look like this, Peter. So the value of A will look like this, Abby. If Peter and James should meet the condition, we are just assuming that Peter and James meet the condition. It means the value of A will look like this, Abby now. Hello?
Yeah, with filter.
So when you now say if A, it's like you saying if this array. Shall get the and this will be 2C because we said 6 things are 4C. This array is not part of these 6 things. Do we understand? Can we hear me? Or are we confused? Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We couldn't hear me, so I was confused at the point. Okay. So we have if this array like this. Now let's now assume that none of them meets the condition. It means that A will now look like this. Shall get there. If you are using filter. A will, so it's that if you now say if A, it's like you saying if empty array. Empty array is still treated as truth. It's not false. It is true. That's what I want us to know because we're learning. This empty array, it is truth. It's not part of those things that can see falsely. Shall I understand?
Yeah.
So even if you put if A here for this, it will always be true.
Empty string is false. Is false, right?
Yes, empty string. Yes, sir. Empty string is false. But empty array, in fact, times this go back to the value share this space is truth. This space is truth. But tí o bá ní kankan láàrin tó bá rí báyìí, èwo lè wà ní false. Then empty array is also truth. It's not part of those things, those 6 things that are false. So I understand.
Okay.
So this will always,
yes,
be true. Always for filter. It will always be true because even if nothing is there, A will be an empty array. An empty array will be true. So it will always run this if part. It will never run this else part. So what we can now do is we can now say A.length. This will solve the problem. If A.length. Because let's assume we have Peter. Let's assume we have Peter and James. Here like this. Let's assume only these 2 meet this condition. So this is A now, Abby.
Yes.
What is A dot length?
One, two, 3, 4, 5.
No. A dot length will be 2. We are assuming that, let's assume only these two meet the condition of this filter. Shall I get this?
Okay. Sorry, sir. Yeah.
So we are assuming that only these two meet the condition. So A dot length will be 2, Abby.
Yeah.
So this is like saying if 2 and 2 is 2t, so it will still run this code.
Good.
But let's now assume none of them meet the condition. So this will be an empty array. Let's assume none of them meet this condition. This will be an empty array. So what is A dot length?
Empty. A dot length is nothing. 0.
0. Good. If 0 is 4c, shall I see? Shall I get there?
Yeah.
0
4C,
is
yeah.
40. So I will see else part there in this case.
Okay, to run the code.
Yes, because 0 is 4c. Shall I understand filter to find?
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
The reason I brought this up is because I not that I'm finishing. Of course, when we get to the third stage, in fact, even in this project, you can be making use of them. Instead of using for loop at some places, you can make use of your map. Some places you make use of your filter.
Yeah.
Some places you make use of your find and all of that. It will be about if register by. You want to check whether email exists or not. You can make use of your find in that case and all of that. Any question?
Not for now.
Okay. Let's check another. Okay, so Sister Moji, Mr. Jacob. Okay, Mr. Jacob is no longer here.
Jacob,
okay. Sister Moji.
Hello, sir.
Any question?
No, for now, but I think I will have question later, Sha.
Mujeri, you make a question later, Mujeri.
No problem.
Okay. Two I see.
What's the cat?
And you never call a next to buy. You never call a next to buy any.
I want to ask us a question. Let me separate this and make it okay. So this is fine now. Copy. Paste. Let me call it matic number. Let me use matic number. Now look at this. This is an array of objects, Abi. is an array, and it has 3 objects. This is the first object.
Yes.
This is the second object. And this is the third object. Look at the first and the second object. The first object and the second object, they both have square of SQI. The first and the third object, they both have the same department, which is software. Now here's my question. If I want to fetch all students that attend SQI, which one will I use? Is it map, is it filter, is it find? I want to fetch all students that attend SQI in this array.
All students.
Yes, sir. That attend this square of SQI. Is it map, is it filter, is it find?
Filter.
Filter.
Okay, good. If I want to fetch all students in software department, is it map, is it filter, is it find?
Find.
What's the question again, sir?
If I want to fetch all students,
I didn't get the question.
okay, if I want to fetch all students that are in software department, which one will I use? Is it map, is it filter, is it find? If I want to fetch.
Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am. If I
So
want
the
to
first all students
that
in department.
software department. You know these departments, hardware, this department, software,
Okay, so
and this department,
Yes.
software. Good. If I want to fetch all students in software department, which one am I going to use? Is it map? Is it filter? Is it find?
Filter.
filter.
Okay, good. If I want to fetch all students in hardware department, which one am I going to use? Is it map? Is it filter? Is it find?
Fine. Since hardware is just one.
Yeah.
Now, that's where I actually brought that question. It is T filter. Reason is this. It's also
Filter.
possible for this array to increase tomorrow, and there will be another student in hardware. Are we getting it?
Okay.
For now, it looks safe for us to use find.
Yeah.
But tomorrow, there may be another student. And that student may be in that same hardware department. And for that reason, if we don't actually think, if we don't foresee that in our code by writing it or by preparing for that, then we are going to run into problems.
Yeah.
So we need to actually
Yeah,
foresee
yeah,
that
yeah,
instance.
yeah.
Okay. If you want to fetch the student with mathematic number of 102,
Yeah.
which one am I going to use? If you want to find the student with mathematic number of 102, which one are we going to use? Is it map? Is it filter? Is it find?
I would say it's fine because no two person can have one one matric number.
Sister Moji?
Sir.
So what's your view?
I think it's map.
Okay, is find. Pastor, what is correct? Is find.
I said map. Map.
Okay, the answer is find. No two
Okay.
students can have the same matric number. And because we are aware of that, then find is the best to use in that situation. Do you understand?
Okay. What's now the difference between, what is the distinct difference between map and find?
Find is to, when you realize that only one of them will meet that condition, you write a condition. Whenever you have a condition to meet, in this case, we want to find the students with matric number of 102.
Okay.
So in that case, you make it of find because there is a condition to be met. But map is going to do that same. Remember I said map is similar to for each. Can you remember?
Yeah.
So map is going to do that same thing for all the items. It's not going to remove anyone. It's going to do that same thing for all the items in that array. All of them, excluding none. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So I want to ask a question. If I want to display the names of all the students, which one am I going to use? Is it map? Is it filter? Is it find? I want to
The
display
name of all
only
the
the names,
students.
only the names of all the students. Which one am I going to use? Is it map? Is it filter? Is it find?
I
Should
think
be
it's
should
map.
be map.
Map. Map. You are correct. Map. That's because you are doing it for all the students. Do you understand it now?
All the students. Yeah.
Okay, let's now write the codes to do
Okay.
all of these things that we just said. Let's write the codes to do that. Now you're going to say, for the first one, you want to display the students in SQI. So you're going to say a dot filter. Since you know that we're going to make use of filter, you can then put students inside this place. You know, I told you that you can use okay, let's write it out to make it easier to understand. So you can put second func inside this place. Then this now receives it as student. So you know these old objects will first be sent to this filter. Remember I said it's going to send each value in that array. Remember, send each value. So that the whole object, I'll call the value of filter. Then to send it to second func. Second func will now receive it as students. So you want to return the ones where student dot, remember student is an object. I'm objects in it now, Abby.
Yes.
So it should be sending the objects one after the other. Good, thank you. So you can now see if student.school is equal to SQI. You can use a triple equals to if I want to. So it will only return the ones that meet this condition. So only those objects whereby the student.school is equal to SQI will be returned here. You can now save it as another variable. You can call it new array. So new array will now be only those students where the school is SQI. So when we check the value of new array, it will be the first and the second ones alone. This first and the second. It's not going to include the third one. So I need to then. Okay. So this is, you can see name, the first and the second name, name kernel. So if you want to display the ones in software department, it's still the same process. For that one, you just say if student.department is equal to software. The case matters, so I need to check if
software.
If the thank you, sir. If the software, this is capital letter. This one also capital letter, yes. So mine, the one I'm also checking for must be in capital letter. Okay. So it will only return the first and the third. That is Taye and Idowu. So check open. Taye and Idowu. Shang, I enjoy map will filter. So we need to display the students with the matic number of 102, which is Kenny. So instead of that, using filter here, we need to change it to find.
Right.
So you now say if student.matric is equal to
101.
Okay.
So 102.
So the case the data type matters because you are using triple equal to. Let's assume we are using double equal to. This can be in quotes. It doesn't matter. It will still be 2. But since we are using triple equal to, then it must be exactly equal to. Since these ones are numbers, this must also be a number. So it will now return it as, but this will not be an array. Remember I said find will not return an array. Instead, it will just return that value. So in this case, this will be an object. which should be that of Kenny. Now, I want to return only the names of all the students, just the names of all the students. So because you are doing it for all the students, you just say map. Yeah. Then you now say return students dot name. That's it. So to return the names of all the students inside this new array. Just the names. Any question?
Not for now, sir.
All right. So all of these things, they are things we could do before this class. Yes, just that they'll take longer time. But with ES6, you are writing shorter codes.
Yeah.
You don't think you can't do it. In fact, before today's class, you could do these things. And now you can still do them, just that you are doing them in a shorter way. You need to, before today's class, you need to use a for loop and write if statements when needs be and all of that. But now you don't need to write that. We've compressed them together, and we can still compress this even more by cutting this out of this place. And please get used to this one. Like, I mean this way of cutting it and pasting it, because we will be using this a lot in our third stage. Mama create function. We'll just be writing it directly. Shall you understand? Shall I look short? Like look at this thing, just 2 lines and you are done. Isn't that interesting? Just 2 lines. That's a programming is interesting. So we have had enough. In our next class, we are going to look at classes and constructors. But before, in our next class, the first thing I'll do will be to ask about our assignment. I'm not expecting us to have completed it, no. But I just want to check the progress. Just to know how far we've come. Alright, good night. Thank you so much. Have a lovely night.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sister Majid, thank you.
Sister, thank you.
Yes,